Okay, so I think we can go ahead and get started. I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. We're really excited to have you here. This is the second installment of our Family Forum series, and today we'll be discussing our theory of teaching and learning. You may have heard of this referred to as ToTaL. So just a couple of housekeeping things before we get started. Everyone will remain muted for the presentation for sound quality, and we'll send out a recording to any parents and families who weren't able to join us today. We will have a time for questions at the end, so if you will submit questions through the questions box throughout the presentation or towards the end, we will have time for those. And then with that, I will go ahead and invite Erin Kissling to kick us off. Erin is Early Learning Indiana's Vice President of Practice and Policy.
Hi, good afternoon. Well, not quite afternoon, almost afternoon. Thanks for joining us. I'm really excited to talk with you today just a little bit about what we call ToTaL, and it's really our approach to teaching and learning. And I just want to share a little bit of the background of how we got to this, and then what it means in your child's classroom. So I'll start where we grounded ourselves right here in what we call our learning priorities. And so these are the outcomes that we seek to achieve for the children that are served at our day early learning sites. And so, in our classrooms, our teachers are really ensuring that they are sparking a child's curiosity about the world around them, giving them opportunities to build their confidence, explore the world and take initiative, to infuse those flexible thinking strategies, effectively express themselves with their peers and with those around them, the ability to collaborate with their peers and with the adults in the room, and then all the while we're really strengthening their persistence and resilience. And so sometimes when I look over and share these priorities with others, I hear, well, you guys forgot the most important thing about preschool. In the early years, it is the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s. And I guarantee you, if you walked in one of our classrooms, I'm just down the hall from our classrooms right now, that you will hear teachers using those the methods of teaching children those basic literacy skills and their basic numeracy skills. And those are all a part of what we do, right? That if being able to effectively express yourself, being able to collaborate, all of those things are foundational in those skills that are needed for kindergarten. The other thing I sometimes hear about these is that, well, this doesn't apply to babies, because how would babies use a flexible thinking strategy? Well, if you have watched, if you've gotten to the point yet where you've watched your baby start to the process of walking, and they have, if you've ever seen them, crawl over to something sturdy, maybe it's a shelf or a chair, and, they try to pull themselves up, but they don't quite have their feet grounded underneath them. And then what happens is they bop right back down, right? Because you need some sturdy feet under you to stand up well. Well, what happens next for that baby? I've never seen a time where they give up and never ever attempt standing again. No, not at all. What might happen is they might get really mad and frustrated, but they're going to adjust themselves. They're going to use those flexible thinking strategies to adjust their bodies and try it again, right? And so all of these priorities are evident in all of our classrooms each day, and it's really the work that our teachers are doing is to foster these and bring these out for children so that they really are ready when they get to the next stage. The other example that I use, I'm sure it's probably the same for you. Some of you might even be joining from, I have this device, right, that's always right close to me, within, arm's reach almost all 24 hours a day. And I always think about, when I was a child and the computer that I used at home, right? Never in my parents' most wild dreams could they have imagined that I would have a more powerful computer that fit in my pocket and I kept it with me all day, every day, right? But what it took to create this was somebody who would ask interesting questions, right? They wanted to know, what could they get to, right? They had the confidence to assemble a team, to bring it together and give it some tries. And I promise you, they didn't get it right the first time, right? I think what was the one that they eventually released to the public was like the iPhone 3, right? So we were on the 3rd iteration, and I don't know what we're on now, like 47 or something like that, right? So continually iterating. A few years ago, we said, I want to be able to be pushed in the pool and not ruin my phone, right? And somehow they figured out, or the smartphone companies figured out how to make that happen, right? They did that through collaboration, through the ability to express themselves to their peers, and really persistence and resilience has really risen there, and the fact that they didn't always get the right answer the first time. And so these are not just the skills that prepare children for kindergarten, but the skills that prepare them for a lifetime of success. So what we did now, actually about 4 years ago, was say, we know great things are happening in our classroom, but we really want to put to paper how we will hold ourselves accountable and how we will approach this work. And so we gathered a stakeholder group of our teachers, our classroom support professionals, our school leaders, people from our central office, all to think about this idea together, to reference what is current research, and understand what is our current practice. And we really boiled it down to a few key things that we believe are sort of what makes the pieces of our classrooms work together. And so what we aligned around first were our beliefs about how children learn. And very specifically, these are embedded in our work daily. And so what we believe is that every child is competent and capable. They are learning through relationships with adults and peers. They're constructing their knowledge through diverse experiences. Each of them are learning at a pace that is unique and individual to them. And they're learning all the time. It never stops, right? And so with these 5 beliefs is really the foundation of how we approach all learning in our classroom. And so sometimes people, when they look at these, will ask me like, well, is constantly learning, like, what does that actually mean? That's what it means, actually, is they are constantly learning, right? So there's sort of 2 streams of thought there. One being that, you know, for all of us here today, we've all been through a schooling system that put some constructs around the times, right? So generally, when you went to math class, the thing that you talked about was math, right? And when you went to your ELA class, you didn't talk about math at all, right? And so, but for our children, they don't have those boundaries, right? And so they see moments of math, they see moments of social science all throughout their days, and they aren't bound by the things that we're bound by. So we as educators have to keep an open mind to that learning path for the child, that we can foster it, right? That we have the opportunity to see math in patterns that they see in nature, and we can bring those learning opportunities out for the child. The other part about is constantly learning is that there is actually not a second in their day that they're with us or that they're with you that they're not learning, right? And so as a parent, I'm a mom of 3 myself. You know, there have been plenty of times that my children have learned things from me in moments that, you know, maybe were moments of weakness, that maybe I'm not the proudest of, but guess what? I didn't think they were paying attention, and they most certainly were paying attention. And so that is really important for us to remember in the classroom, because when we have moments of downtime, and we have all of these, you know, opportunities that we have to hold sacred for the child, because we only get this opportunity with them, this day with them once. And so we really set these core beliefs within a set of what we call the key conditions for learning. And I'm going to go over those right here. And so in order for us to optimize learning, we know that first and foremost, we most absolutely must have secure, established relationships with every child in the classroom. That is the place from which a child can learn. If they don't have a secure base, if they don't feel comfortable in the space and have that attachment to an adult in the space, they really won't get the full breadth of learning in the space. So our teachers focus first on ensuring that those relationships are well supported. And then the other is that play is really crucial to their development, right? Not just physically, but also socially and emotionally. All of those pieces are what help a child grow. And they do that and we foster that in very play-based ways. And so the opportunity to explore all of the pieces of the classroom and that have been constructed to give them a play opportunity, but it's play with purpose, right? So it's not just chaos, right? The teacher has made some decisions about what they're putting out in those spaces to help foster the learning that they know each child needs. And then each child, sorry, all the things are covered up here. I cannot move. There we go. Sorry about that, friends. The other thing is that we know that it's important for educators in our classrooms to really have a positive focus on and recognize what everyone brings into our classroom, that the attributes not are only identified that we understand, but we're recognizing that for each child. So, so teachers really are having that focus that helps them understand what the child needs in their growth and development, and what they've already achieved as well. And then the final conditions here, that it's important in our classrooms that we understand a child within the context of their community, their family, and their individual experiences. And so each child brings their whole lifetime of experiences, and that might just be 12 weeks of experience, but during that time they've learned that when I cry, a caring adult appears at my crib and takes care of my needs, right? And so those things are the context that bring them into the classroom. And so understanding what's happening around us, what's happening around the child, is super important in order for our ability to foster their learning and make good connections for them with what they're experiencing in their real life. And the next one is that children have the access to the educational resources they need to thrive. And so, there are definitely limits to what we can serve in the classroom. Maybe a child might need a speech therapist or an occupational therapist, and it's really the job of our educators to make those handoffs, to help identify the needs that are out there for your child, and help you find the right resource to support them so that they can really thrive in the classroom. And then the final condition is really about predictability. And so the child, all of us actually, not just children, we all thrive in that predictable context, right? We thrive with predictable relationships, with predictable routines and predictable actions, right? For the most of us, I bet we took the exact same path to work this morning that we take every morning, right? And so, and you might have even zoned out, right? I don't know if that happens to you. Maybe it's just a strange thing that happens to me, but sometimes you're like, was that a red light? Like, did I stop? Right? Like, because you've got into that pattern, right? And so it's the same thing in the classroom for your child. Having that understanding of who will be with me today, how will I engage throughout my day, right? I was here for snack time this morning, and the children knew when they saw the cart come to the door that it was time for snack, and they started putting their things away and going to the table because they were ready, right? They knew that that was their normal routine. And that actually brings a sense of security for the child that helps foster that relationship. So in the classroom, our teachers are grounded in those 5 core beliefs that we talked about, and they're helping create these conditions that really optimize learning. And then they're using the tools that they have at their disposal to really engage with your child in the classroom. And so our teachers, your teachers are preparing lesson plans that are based on their understanding of what your child needs developmentally, and what they're interested in. And so we use a lot of studies in our program, which are extended opportunities for learning. And so just in a toddler classroom a few minutes ago, where they've been learning about light. And so so they had the lights turned down low, and in one section of the room, a few of the kids had flashlights, and in the other side of the room, they were building on top of the light table, right? And so, and the teacher was telling me about how they've even mentioned the light from the sun, and they looked at shadows. And so all of these different pieces that are just their interest, that the teacher is using that opportunity to build those skills of curiosity and flexible thinking, of the ability to communicate, to bring that out in the opportunities that we have in the classroom. And then like I said, they're using the curricular materials that they have that are often open-ended, that are giving those play opportunities. And then that's how they're capturing your child's attention. I promise you, everyone was actively engaged in something that involved light in that classroom, and they were deep in it, right? They were using the flashlights to look through the blocks that they had out. One person on the light table was building a circus, and so she had some paper tubes that had holes in them, and she was building so that her circus worker could go up to the top. And so they're all getting deep into those ideas that together, encouraging their learning. And then our teachers are using the assessments that we employ, teaching strategies gold, which helps us understand what is it that is the next skill that your child needs to learn. And so how do we give your child the core skills they're going to need to be successful in kindergarten and beyond? And so so they're using that curriculum to build opportunities and then capturing growth through the assessment, all based back on our beliefs and then how the conditions that we're creating. And so it's sort of how all of the pieces come together in the classroom to create learning opportunities for your children. And we're excited to be able to engage with your family in this way and really support your children on a daily basis in their own growth and development. Okay, I think Carrie is going to pull out some questions for us.
Yes, thank you, Erin. I always love hearing about this just because it just sounds like the things that are happening in the classroom are just so much fun. And I wish that I could be there with them sometimes. So, for anyone who's joining us today, if you can go ahead and use the questions box, and we'll take any questions that you have about our theory of teaching and learning. I do know that we will be sending out an email at the end of the presentation. I would really be interested to know what topics people are interested in learning about for our next webinars. So just looking at some questions here. Okay, so this person's asking about if you can speak to any ongoing professional development and support that we give to our team members to put in the teaching and learning theories into action.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to talk about this. Probably one of my favorite areas. So we have a couple of different things happening, and really we have a plan that happens throughout the year as well. And so we have some initiatives that are going to help us sort of at the onset, at onboarding, revamping so that we have clarity and understanding. And then for the past 9 months now, we've been doing a series really focused on our learning environments, on the curriculum use, and then on our data use. And so so teachers have engaged in lunch and learns all throughout the year to get sort of deep focus on those with their peers in their centers. And then for lead teachers, we have what we call collaborative planning, which is actually a cross-network opportunity for individuals teaching the same age group. And so, so one of the things about early education is it can actually be really isolating work. Because often you might have one adult in the room with you, but it's really just the two of you trying to figure out how to best serve this. And the thing about that's unique to day early learning is that, one, we recognize that, and we provide opportunities for those teachers to connect, not just with people in their building, but with people across our network. And so if your child goes to a center where there's only one infant teacher, they might be racking their brains to figure out, how do I help build this certain skill for children? And this monthly opportunity with collaborative planning gives those teachers the opportunity to come together, like I said, once a month, and talk about the subjects that really are impacting their classroom. And so, so we generally have sort of like a nugget of learning, and then we dig in together as to what does this look like in our own classrooms. And so the teachers take back sort of their own action plan as to what they're doing. And then starting last year, if you've been with us, or this past year, if you've been with us for a little while, we do have now a one-day conference that we do with our teachers. Last year had to stay in a virtual format. We're super excited this year on President's Day to offer a more traditional conference experience for our teachers with speakers from across the nation that come in this year with a focus on play-based learning, as well as developing those social emotional skills that really give a good foundation for future literacy and numeracy skills.
Awesome, thank you. Yes, I'm excited that PD Day will be a little more traditional this year as well. I do also love to see, on the internal side of things, we do have some chats that we all share where teachers and school leaders will post different things that they're doing in their classroom, and that's always really nice to see. And I think it's also helpful for other teachers to see what other teachers are doing. And that's where we get all of those really great photos of kids just looking so enthralled and excited about what they're doing. So if anybody else has any other questions, you can go ahead and submit those. I did notice, so I was thinking a little bit about what maybe our next topic could be. How do you think parents could implement some of this at home?
Oh, so your teacher, if they aren't already, will start sharing some of those opportunities with you. As they get a little bit deeper in their curriculum, there are actually pieces that talk about what the home extension is. And so recently had some feedback from a family whose 3-year-old classroom was doing the building study. And one of the pieces that the classroom teacher had asked them to do was just talk about the buildings they saw on their drive home. And so they were saying, I only live 5 minutes from the center, but I was astounded by how many types of buildings we saw in that 5-minute drive. And so, then that child came to school the next day with just a wealth of things to talk about because that extension that happened at home. And so, so we definitely have opportunities for families to contribute that way. The other thing is, as classrooms are implementing their studies, they often will use that as an opportunity for families to contribute in the classroom. And so one of the studies that comes to mind is the recycling study. And one of the things that they need to do is collect some recyclables for the projects that they'll do during the study. And so families sometimes bring egg cartons or paper towel rolls or those sorts of things. I saw one classroom collected just caps to anything, so like Gatorade bottles, milk caps, all of those things that then they used in their recycling project that they culminated that study with. So there are a lot of opportunities for families to engage in that way. I would always encourage you to look at the lesson plans that are posted in your child's classroom. And that gives you an opportunity also to see like what is coming to life in the space and make those connections for your child outside of the classroom.
Thank you. It looks like we have just one more question here. So are lesson plans individual for each child or age group? How does that work?
So for infants, they are individualized to each child because the development is so different and various in that first 12 months of life. Every classroom then on past has their based on the age group, but there's individualization in the week for your child. And so, so it might be with 3 other children who are working on the exact same skill, but the teacher is making those small group opportunities or making sure that the child is getting into one of the centers in the classroom to work on the skill that they need to work on. And so in a pre-K classroom or preschool classroom, that might be maybe they're recognizing the first letter of their name. And there might be some children who've got it right there. They maybe can spell their name, right? So the teacher needs to give some additional deeper activities for them, and some that just need that exposure to recognizing, the opportunities that they can see. But my name starts with E, right? And so, so they do individualize on each lesson plan. But for the infant, it really is a plan that is just for the infant because their development varies so much in that classroom.
And then, Erin, those lesson plans, those are usually posted outside of the classroom, like on a cork board, or how does that work?
Yeah. So they're somewhere around the classroom door. In some centers, they might be just inside the door, and some they're just outside the door. And then, as we continue to our use of our digital tools, that's another place where you can often find the lesson plan as well, is posted in the digital apps that we use.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's probably all we've got today. I'll give people a couple seconds. Questions usually tend to come in right around now. But we will be sending out a survey after this with some a questionnaire about what you'd like to learn next. So we would like to do one of these each quarter. This is our second one for the year, so hopefully we'll do another one towards the end of the year and then continue that on. So we would love your feedback on what it is that you want to learn from our subject matter experts like Erin. So With that, thank you, and I hope you have a great day.